I decided to combine two of my favorite things, motherhood and science. Welcome to Momology. Hi guys, and welcome back to Momology. This week we'll be talking about vaccines. So how do they work, and are they safe for our children? Vaccines train the immune system to recognize and combat pathogens. And pathogens can, for example, be bacteria or viruses. More specifically, a virus is a teeny tiny infectious agent that uses the cells in our own body to replicate. So basically, they take over our own cells and use their resources to make more and more copies of the virus. A bacteria, on the other side, is a living cell, and they cause disease by making toxins, so basically poisons. It's important to remember that not all bacteria are dangerous. In fact, most of them are harmless and live in and on our bodies, for example, in our gut and all over our skin. Some bacteria are even necessary for our survival. So how do you train the immune system to recognize a pathogen using a vaccine? So certain molecules from the pathogen are injected into the body. So this can be a part of the pathogen, a weakened form of it, or an inactivated version of the disease-causing agent. The molecules that are injected are referred to as antigens, and the immune system then produces antibodies in response to these antigens. And the immune system can then remember the pathogen for the future. So if you're infected, the immune system can react quickly and it can attack aggressively before it has a chance to spread and cause disease. So what is herd immunity? So basically, when enough people are immunized, so either that they've gotten vaccinated or that they've already had the disease, the virus or bacteria basically doesn't have a lot of hosts, and it becomes difficult for it to spread. If enough people are vaccinated, the disease can even die out, and this is what is referred to as herd immunity. Since everyone isn't able to get vaccinated, like infants, small children, pregnant women, or people with compromised immune systems, herd immunity is important to keep these people safe. And if enough people don't get vaccinated, these diseases have the chance to cause outbreaks and spread once again. So some of you may be worried about vaccinating your children. Well, first of all, I think it's important to be aware of the diseases that your child would be at risk of if you decide not to vaccinate. Since many of these diseases haven't been around for a long time, many of us have forgotten how deadly and debilitating some of these diseases can be. So one vaccination that is commonly included in different countries' vaccination programs is diphtheria. Diphtheria is a serious bacterial infection. The bacteria make a toxin that can make it difficult to breathe, cause heart failure, and can cause paralysis. 5 to 10% of people who get diphtheria die, and in children under the age of 5, the number is 20%, so that's 1 in every 5 children. The next is tetanus. Tetanus is also a bacterial infection. It causes spasms that often begin in the jaw and then spread to the rest of the body. The spasms can last up to a few minutes, and the episodes last for 3 to 4 weeks. And 1 in 10 people who get tetanus die. The next is whooping cough, which is also known as pertussis, and is very contagious. The disease can make you cough so hard that you vomit or even break your ribs. Infants can even have periods where they do not breathe. 4% of infants with whooping cough die, so 4 in every 100 children with the disease. And for children under the age of 5, the number is 1 in 100, so 1%. The next is polio, which is a viral disease which causes chronic paralysis in 1% of patients. And the death rate of polio is 5 to 15% if the virus infects the cells of your spinal cord. Measles, which is included in the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, is a viral infection that gives rise to a high fever and other cold symptoms, in addition to a rash. And serious complications of measles are more common in children under the age of 5 and in adults over 30. For example, you can become blind, get encephalitis or pneumonia, and the risk of dying is about 0.2%. Mumps is also a viral disease, and symptoms include a high fever and other flu symptoms, in addition to a painful swelling in one or both sides of your salivary glands. And complications include deafness, inflammation in the brain, the heart, and/or the testicles. Rubella is also a viral disease characterized by a rash. Complications include bleeding problems, testicular swelling, and inflammation of the brain and nerves. Infection of rubella during pregnancy increases the risk of miscarriage, and children may otherwise be born with congenital rubella syndrome. And these were just a handful of the dangerous diseases that we're vaccinated for. So why are we so scared of vaccines? And a lot of us are. In a study from 2017, 43% of parents thought that vaccines came with a moderate to a high risk. And vaccines can cause some common symptoms. For example, a fever, joint stiffness, or a mild rash. In some rare cases, some children even vomit. But what about more serious side effects? What about autism? The idea that vaccines could cause autism was originally developed in 1998 by a scientist named Andrew Wakefield, and this was regarding the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. He published a paper in The Lancet interviewing parents that reported that their children developed autism shortly after receiving the vaccine. Andrew's findings were that the children had an increased inflammation in the gut, and he drew the conclusion that the inflammation was caused by the vaccine and that this is what must be causing the autism. He started going on television shows and making these claims even though he didn't have any real evidence at the time. Loads and loads of researchers have worked on this since then, and they haven't been able to show a connection between the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine and autism. Andrew's paper was even withdrawn because it was shown to be flawed both medically and ethically, and his license was withdrawn. However, he still managed to cause a lot of concern regarding the vaccine. Next we have mercury, or thimerosal, which is or was used as a preservative in vaccines. And thimerosal also got a bad reputation, suggesting that it was causing autism. However, studies including more than 500,000 children who received vaccines with or without thimerosal couldn't find a connection between the preservative and autism. In addition, thimerosal isn't even in many of the vaccines today. It was removed back then because of all the public concern. So that was autism. What about seizures? Well, studies have shown that you can get a seizure from a vaccine, and this is caused from the fever which arises when the immune system ramps up. For example, for the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, 1 in 3,000 children can have a seizure. And for the DTaP vaccine, that protects against diphtheria, tetanus, whooping cough, and polio, 1 in every 14,000 children can get a seizure from the vaccine. However, these seizures haven't been linked to any brain damage or epilepsy. Back in the day, there was something called vaccine-driven epilepsy, but since then, experts have shown that most of these children had underlying genetic disorders to begin with, and that while the vaccine may have triggered the first episode of seizures, they would have had a seizure at a later time point otherwise. As many of you know, a fever can trigger a seizure even aside from after a vaccination. So if you're worried about vaccinating your child, I would go back and weigh the risks of the diseases that the vaccinations are meant to protect against. I know that all of us are just trying to keep our child safe, and in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, vaccination is the way to go. So until next time, stay safe out there. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave your comments below if there's any specific topic that you'd like me to bring up next week. Bye guys, see you next time.